Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final issue of the year, How Clarity Unlocks Confident Teaching. Today, Sarah Drebber and I speak with Dr. Lynn Sherritt about what clarity really means, what it looks like in classrooms, and the practical actions leaders can take to help teachers feel confident, prepared, and ready for 2026.
So, Dr. Sherritt is a highly sought after expert in the field of education, a distinguished practitioner, researcher, author, and presenter. She's dedicated her career to turning cutting edge research into practical guidance for system and school leaders. With her extensive experience and expertise, she's developed a unique roadmap for education leaders to utilise ongoing assessment to inform instruction and drive equity at all levels of the education system. Her work has been recognised nationally and internationally, and her insights and strategies have transformed countless classrooms, schools, districts, and even entire education systems. Her notable publications include Clarity, What Matters Most in Leading, Teaching and Learning, and I've got my copy here today with us, with my little
Perfect.
top. It's been very well used. And Putting Faces on the Data, What Great Leaders and Teachers Do, with Michael Fullan, and Learning to Listen and Listening to Learn, Empowering Visible Clarity with Dr. John Hattie is Lynn's 7th book. So welcome, Lynn.
Thank you. Thanks, Sarah, and thanks, Stephanie. It's great to be with you. And I just want to acknowledge and pay my respects to our elders, past, present, and emerging, across the lands where I live in snowy Ontario, Canada, and of course, across the beautiful lands in Australia where you live. So I'm so pleased to be here.
Thank you. And I pay my respect as well to the Darug people. The Darug land is where I'm coming from today. And Steph, where are you coming from today?
I'm coming from the Camaragal lands.
Yes. So Lynn, what does clarity in teaching mean to you, and why does it matter so much in today's educational landscape?
Thanks so much, Sarah. To me, clarity means that, bottom line, we work collectively, collaboratively, building trust and building relationships that matter to ensure that our students achieve the best possible instruction they can. And really, to me as well, clarity means we're about all the faces of our learners, and I really do mean all, and of course, all the faces of our teaching staff, our support staff, leaders, and parent community. So to me, when we focus on the data we collect every day as learners work, and use that data for instruction, we're really ensuring that clarity is present in every classroom. And for me as well, it means the work that Michael Fullan and I have done on establishing a framework for that clarity. And the framework we've called the 14 parameters, 14 areas that provide that clarity for our teachers and leaders in schools, networks, and systems as well.
Thanks so much, Lynn. Yes, very familiar with your framework, as I've spent a lot of time in that book. Yeah, changing. Steph?
Yeah, Lynn, I just want to say that, reading your book, rereading it, I'm always just nodding my head in agreement. It just makes sense. And I love how the third teacher being that learning environment, how you've really made that
Mm.
paramount in all of this work. So thank you. As leaders and teachers plan for 2026, what are your top three practical tips for using learning intentions and success criteria to embed shared clarity across all classrooms?
Well, first of all, Stephanie, I want to say thank you for remembering that third teacher that surrounds those 14 parameters, because it's the third teacher that creates the learning environment of a collaborative culture of learning. So we need to see that third teacher in every classroom, but also in every learning space in every school and system, when I think about the third teacher, I just want to clarify for our audience. The first teacher, of course, are the parents. The second teacher, the teacher in the classroom. And then the third teacher becomes that space as I said, the environment that invites students and teachers in to learn together. One of the other tools, besides those 14 parameters and embedded in the 14 parameters, is parameter 3, and that is using data to inform instruction. And you can see by the assessment waterfall chart, which I refer to often as another tool in Clarity, to just remind us how important it is that we start with the curriculum expectations before we identify the learning intentions of a unit of study. And I really emphasize this is a unit of study. And the learning intention needs to be broad enough so that we can deconstruct the words in that learning intention. And then with our students, as a unit progresses, we can co-construct how to be successful, the success criteria. So when I think about learning intentions and success criteria, and I hear they're now called LISC, so that's very interesting. I think there are two important words. And one is deconstructed learning intentions. That means working on the words. What a wonderful opportunity to unpack the vocabulary of the discipline. And this is for K to 12, so kindergarten, we call it here in Ontario, to year 12 in every subject area. So every subject area in those units of study need to have clearly stated for our students what they're learning. And we often start with the sentence stem. We are learning to, we are learning that, we are learning about. And of course, deconstructed learning intentions move us to co-constructing with students as our unit moves along how to be successful. What does successful learning look like in this unit? And it really shouldn't be a surprise because as teachers and planners for instruction, we use the curriculum expectations. That's where we find learning intentions and success criteria. We just have to figure out how we unpack them in student-friendly language. So I want to as well just show you the intentionality that we need to see in Clarity. So this is one of my favorite examples. Our learning goal, that's what we call it in Ontario, are really learning intentions across Australia. I think I like that word better so it doesn't confuse us with independent and individual goal setting. So there's the learning goal, year 1. I love it because it's mathematics. But there are the co-constructed success criteria, and that's why this particular anchor chart's my favorite. Because the students have really done it. And when I was in the class, they wanted to show me that they really knew what they could do. So success criteria start with that statement, I can. The learning intention is for the whole unit we are learning about. The success criteria are for the individuals within the class. What can they do? And we use that then to self-reflect and self-assess as students where we are in those I can success criteria statements.
They're especially good for feedback as well, aren't they? Having that clarity around the success criteria.
Yeah, and although I say they're for learning and although I say they're for students, they're really for us as teachers as well, because they're helping guide our feedback. We can't give feedback against anything that isn't listed in the success criteria. And students can't set their own goals for learning unless it's about how they're being successful.
And how does that foster equity?
Well, the one thing I really want to say is that it's for all students. We don't have some success criteria, learning intention success criteria over here for some and some over here for the others. Unless students are on a modified program or accommodated, then the success criteria are for all of the students. And it's important that as teachers, we scaffold our teaching among the success criteria. So if students can all do the first success criteria, how do we scaffold our learning to ensure that all students can do the next one? And of course, some students, it differentiates because some students will go way beyond. But I just really make the point, this work is about all students, all teachers, and all leaders working together for the success of students.
And I love that inclusivity that it provides by looking at the differentiation of the success criteria, the co-construction of the success criteria, so that every child has that sense of success within the classroom. And it is very clear to the teachers, the students, and everybody, where they've been and where they're going, that progression of learning as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And to me, this is explicit teaching. There are no hidden secrets. We're not assessing on those success criteria. And oh, by the way, these other things that I haven't told the students. And that to me is equity and excellence coming together. Students know how they're going to be assessed through those I can statements, and teachers are true to those.
Well, that actually leads really well to my next question, is that you often talk about seeing faces on the data. So we're talking about individual students here. Can you share a real life moment when this shift in focus immediately impacted a leadership team's direction?
For sure. Well, this is one that I was engaged in the moment, on the spot. So the teachers in this is a middle year school, so this is years 7, 8, and 9. They had come together and they collectively decided on a focus for writing. Their data had indicated writing was a little lower than they wanted, so they're focusing their work on writing. And as a team of 6, 7, and 8 year level teachers, they decided on a common assessment. And when I came, they had the common assessment done, and they had decided levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. They put an exemplar up on the board that showed what a level 4 piece of writing looked like. Level 4, 3, and I can't do that. And they decided to show the exemplars. Here's a level 1 piece of writing, low, level 2, level 3, and highest 4. So that was prepared before I came. Then I gave each of the teachers a Post-it. And on the Post-it, they wrote the student's name. Now, think about this. This is as we're teaching together, learning together in real life time. They put the names of their students, whether they were in year 6, 7, whether they were in year 7, 8, or 9. So I think 7 has orange stickies, year 8 has lime green stickies, and year 9 has the bright orange stickies. So 3 different colors. And they looked at the pieces of writing and decided where to place the students on the wall. And then they stood back. And the best part of this was the conversation that followed. Teacher said, well, I taught him last year. Why is he at a low level? I thought he should have been at a bigger level. Show me the piece of writing. And other teachers said, wow, I taught him 2 years ago, and now look at how his trajectory has soared. So the best part of this experience for me was understanding how the teachers came together to develop the writing task, how they leveled the work, and that was in itself a way to set success criteria for each of the levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then when I came along with the Post-its, having them look at each student's piece of writing and put where they felt it was on the data wall continuum. So it was a real celebration. It was a real eye-opener for some. And it also caused teachers to say, well, if you taught him last year or you taught her last year, what worked that I could use to move this student ahead? So for me, it was a real celebration. And we can't forget that data walls are not about shaming, naming, or blaming. Data walls are in a private place where teachers and leaders together can talk about instruction, where students are, where they can go next.
I want to say thank you, Lynn, for just sharing such authentic Australian school examples with us. I love that you're even using the language year instead of grade. So you really know our context well. It's undeniable that your work is having an impact on so many schools, not just in Australia, but around the world. Certainly my own classroom too, a lot of your work guided, those decisions, and really aligns with the work that Sarah and I do at Sanctuaries of Learning around helping, teams empower their teachers to have these rich conversations about the impact they're having on their students. So it's great to see that alignment, Lynn. And I love how active everyone is in that shared vision, belief, commitment, and taking those actions together so that we're always trying to move forward for all of our students.
Absolutely.
So having visited so many schools around the world, Lynn, what are the most inspiring or innovative practices you've seen recently that embody clarity and deep learning?
Well, I think I'm thinking about equity and excellence here. This is a conversation teachers are having at a special school, a school for students identified with special needs. They're sitting in front of their data wall, and the faces are on the data wall. You can see that none of the students are stationary. All of the students are moving, and they're having a case management meeting. Now, this is an instructional case management meeting. It's not about the behavior of the students. That's a different meeting. This is about how will we teach these students to ensure they're moving forward and they're exceeding beyond what we thought was possible into the jumping range, which I love that conversation and those titles. They're non-evaluative. This is a private wall for teachers to have that conversation. So for me, that's really inspiring. Again, it's about excellence. It's also about all students. And I've really found in my travels that context matters. So I've been many places across the globe and across Canada, the US, Chile, Great Britain, Australia, New Zealand, of course. And this is a very small remote island called Thursday Island, about 100 kilometers from Papua New Guinea. And I was there to work with them because they were doing the work of clarity, which was pretty exciting to me. And this is one of the students' work that was presented to me. And this is the second piece of work. In just a few lessons, I would say probably over a term, the students' writing moved from the left to the right with explicit teaching, with that assessment waterfall chart, knowing what they were learning, knowing how to be successful, giving feedback against the success criteria, setting individual goals for this little one. And then finally, having the student be able to articulate the work. So there he is, and he is absolutely thrilled with his improvement and can speak about it. So to me, that's so empowering. That's everything to me. And it happens in small, remote places, and it also happens in large urban and suburban schools. It's happening everywhere because it's about good first teaching that's explicit, where students know how to be successful.
I love that. Out of all of the innovative practices you could have spoken about, you've decided to share, this one student's growth in their writing and their learning, and you can see how happy this student is. And I think
Yeah.
it shows that what you're truly about, which is why we love what you contribute to the educational landscape. It is so inspiring, and I'm reminded again that your work is just so classic. Coming back to those 5 questions, and
Yeah.
even those 5 questions as leaders, I reminded myself
Yeah.
of, you know,
Yeah.
just
Absolutely.
if students are able to answer those questions, and if we're able to answer those questions as teachers and leaders, you can see the shifts quite
Yeah,
quickly.
absolutely. And it's cause for celebration in terms of small wins, right? It doesn't have to be a gigantic win, although I think this is a huge, gigantic win. Uh, just the small wins every day need to be celebrated among teachers, leaders, and students.
That's such a key point. So, Sarah and I work with a lot of teachers in Australia and leaders, and we're always hearing, time is always the problem. We don't have enough time. So, how can collaborative planning time be used more effectively so that teachers feel genuinely prepared and empowered rather than overwhelmed as they head
Mhm.
into the new school year?
Mhm. I think it's really important that we find time to plan together. And here's a classic example of bump it up walls that have been co-constructed. The one on the left is from Queensland, year 4. The one on the right is from Ontario, grade 10. So we each identify that teachers need that time to visit other classrooms, to do learning walks and talks in other classrooms as well, to see how teachers and students co-construct. It's okay to share ideas and take things from one another. So for me, it is about finding time to co-construct. That's not always possible. So I do say that when we have staff meetings, for example, let's use the first 15 minutes of the staff meeting to do a walk in the school. Look for examples that we might use ourselves in our classroom. So we're looking for co-constructed success criteria in our bump it up walls. Or we're taking the assessment waterfall chart in FACES, or no, I think it's in Clarity, page 124, and using it as a planning tool among key stage teachers. So here's an example from a staff room in Queensland where I was working, the southeast region in Queensland, and the principal had these wonderful, very large, right on posters with the empty assessment waterfall chart. And when teachers planned together, they filled in the chart and it was accessible for all the other teachers in the school. So I think there's a lot to say for having walls that talk in classrooms, but also in staff rooms where we can get ideas from one another. It's okay to share ideas. And take ideas from others. It's not cheating. But I think collaborative planning needs to be framed in order to be timely, because we can wander all over the place unless we have a tool to help our collaborative planning. And of course, the assessment waterfall chart is a tool to start with.
Can I just say, Lynn, I have used that exact template as well as a leader planning with the teams, and it is amazing. And you're wonderful that you know what page things are on. I went to it.
Well, I only know a couple of pages, but that's a key one.
Yes, it's been well used, this page in my book as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, these tools and these structures that you talk about, they are really great at framing conversations and getting to the heart of looking at how we can move those students forward and how we can address their needs. For next year, for a starting point for school leaders who want to strengthen their assessment and their data practices, where do you think is a really good starting point? Where should they begin?
Well, for me, they need to look at questions they have. And when we're thinking about collaborative inquiry questions and we've developed some uh, professional learning, we want to continue to ask ourselves, is our professional learning working? How do we know that we've differentiated our professional learning so that teachers have different professional learning sessions? So to me, those questions of leaders really stem from learning walks and talks. And I talk a lot about learning walks and talks in Clarity. And so I think I would start as a leader doing a learning walk and talk to see where the learning is in our school. Are there practices that can be replicated in other places? Are those teachers willing to share their knowledge? I'm always looking for knowledgeable others, teachers who are willing to share their craft knowledge. So to me, beginning by having those learning walks and talks as a leader, perhaps with your leadership team, if you have the luxury of having one, walk through the school uh, and see where the explicit practices are happening. And then from there, decide what way you will begin your professional learning. I guess the other one, if we're starting about talking, I think as well, if we're starting about talking about next year right now, then I would take the 14 parameters, those categories, and they're at the beginning of Clarity as well, and use them as a gap analysis tool. Which ones of the 14 parameters are we doing well? Which ones do we need some more work on? And that's a wonderful activity for a leadership team or for the whole staff to take a look at them and say, oh, we're really doing well in parameter 3 and 13, but we need a little bit more work in parameter 1. So it's a whole staff evaluation of what's working well, what are our next steps. It particularly is important at this time of year to look at those it's important at this time of year to look at those 14 parameters. And remember Michael Fullan's words to me, there are no more parameters in system and school improvement. There they are, the 14. It's how deeply you go into each one and understand the connectedness of each one. So if we're thinking about planning for next year, I'd start with the gap analysis of the 14. If we're starting the new school year, I'd certainly start with a learning walk and talk to gather that data as well.
So practical, and I love the strengths-based approach.
Yeah.
I really admire the fact that you've gone into these schools and worked in different contexts and can see how that has worked in different places. And I'm actually studying myself at the moment, and I'm starting a PhD next year. And and as a researcher, I admire the fact that you've been able to get into those schools and been able to share all of the wonderful things that you know and put them into practice and be able to get that information back and see that it's working. So thank you.
Absolutely. And for me, as a researcher and a practitioner, when I go into schools and I do learning walks and talks and I ask students those 5 questions, that's data collection for me. How are the students in this classroom, this school traveling? Is there something that we need to focus on that they're already doing, but build on it in terms of an asset-based approach? So we can't underestimate the power of those 5 questions. And that is certainly a data collection tool for our principals, our teachers as well. And I was just at a school in New South Wales, and they had a cadre of students. And these students were versed in the 5 questions. That there was a student from each of years 1, kindergarten to year 6, and they went about. They had 1 or 2 opportunities to ask the other students, not necessarily from their grade, the questions, and then they reported back their findings to the leadership team. So that was a new
Mini
piece of
researchers.
information. Yeah, I was really surprised because I was thinking the questions are for leaders and teachers to ask, but they'd really taken it another step. And they first taught students why they were asking those questions and not other questions. So it's a great place to say this work is for leaders, teachers, students, and of course, always parents through newsletters and community outreach.
Thank you so much, Lynn, for your time today. I think for schools who, are starting to wind down, starting to run on empty, this is
Yes.
just a great reminder of things we
Mhm.
can start to think about as we move into the new year, as leaders, and how, we can really think about the learning environment that we're creating, the students individually getting to know them, as well as really truly empowering our teachers through these great frameworks and conversations that you've shared with us today. So thank you so
Thanks
much.
so much, Stephanie. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Lynn.